to your principal debut with Nina Straganova in Swan Lake when you were Prince Siegfried. You're 3 minutes from your entrance in Swan Lake. What's going through you? Do you recall that moment?
Well, not really, but I do realize how wonderful it was to have a chance to dance with such a ballerina as Straganova.
She was an assoluta.
Oh, yes.
And she chose you. So
Yes.
you, at that point when you danced with her, your level must have been very high.
Oh, yes. I could do triple tours,
Really?
and I could also do Entrechauit,
Wow.
which is 8 beats.
Exactly. That means that the legs cross 4 times.
Yes. And in Swan Lake, I did the opening male variation, the original. Coming from the wings, you do a glissade assemblée with entrechassis.
Right.
Then I did the Sisson, double tour, right and left, right and left. Then you run to the corner and you do a double pirouette to arabesque and step back, assemblée, turning.
Right.
Then I ended with the 12 entrechauits, and then sous-sus double tour, sous-sus double tour, sous-sus double tour to the knee.
Wonderful.
And I had it made.
Mr. Nelson, that's quite a difficult variation.
I don't think they're doing that today.
I've never seen it.
No.
I've never seen it done even by the great premier danseurs of the world today.
I know.
So your batterie, you were very skilled at batterie.
Absolutely.
So you, from the Czechety school?
No. Russian school.
The Russian school.
Yeah, I started with Kozlov and Baldina, who were original dancers under Fokin.
Under Leon Fokin.
Yeah.
So you also danced the poet in Les Filles.
Oh, sure. In Cuba, I danced the complete sleigh sylphide with the overhead lifts.
Right.
And variation and partnering.
Right.
I had something most males don't have. The lifts, overhead, one-arm lifts and such.
You did one-arm lifts in sylphides?
Yeah.
I've never seen that done.
I know. It was the first lift from the wings. You take her overhead with one arm.
The image of that sounds great.
Yeah.
I've never seen it done because you were a very strong man.
Oh, yes.
And this is Peter Nelson in his youth. He was definitely a prince, as you can see here, and you can see his powerful build. So you must have been a favorite partner of the ballerinas because you made them look good.
Yes. I did. One of the ballerinas in San Francisco was Jocelyn Palmar. We did Swan Lake and Coppelia, and we also danced in the operas.
Oh, I see.
I always looked forward to the opera season. I did La Traviata, Forza del Destino, and one opera, Lakme.
Oh, right.
The famous soprano Lily Pons
Wow.
sang the role, and I danced a duet with Willem Christensen.
Oh, wow.
We brought the house down.
Oh, wow. Yes.
He was quite a dancer, you know.
Mr. Nelson, who were your contemporaries at that time? There was Igor Yuskevich.
Oh, yes.
And who else? Zoric?
Zoric, Iglevsky.
Andrei Eglevsky.
Then there were the Russians that I liked a lot. from the Bolshoi. There was Yuri Danov, Vadeyev, and Vasiliev. Excellent males.
Nikolai Fadeyev
Yep.
and
Yuri.
Vladimir Vasiliev?
Yes.
Oh, I see.
Excellent males.
Mr. Nelson, you went to Cuba
Yes.
in 1959
Right.
at the invitation of Alicia Alonso,
Yes.
who was herself a prima ballerina. At that time, she guested with the Ballet Russe de Monte Carlo with Igor, and she invited you to a festival. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. Well, Igor was watching class one day, Anatol Vilzak's class, professional class, and he saw me and he asked me if I ever danced Les Sophie, and I said yes. I danced it with Natalie Krasovska in Dallas, and he said, "Well, can you go to Cuba with me? They want someone to do Sophie." I said, "Of course, I'd love to go."
Right.
And we went, and we stayed at the Havana Hilton Hotel,
Right.
and we had dinner with Alonso and her husband and so forth.
Here is a picture of Peter Nelson, who is in the center, Alicia Alonso to his right, and Igor Yuskevich, who was premier danseur at that time in Havana, Cuba, on the balcony of Alicia's home. Mr. Nelson was the guest star in Leon Fokин's famous Les Sylphides, in which he did one-arm lifts, which you just don't see that in the world of ballet in Les Sylphides. The Russians don't do it. Ballet theater doesn't do it. It's a revelation to me because that's the first I've ever heard of that. But I can see the beauty of that lift that Mr. Nelson did with Straganova,
No,
with Krasovska.
no. In Cuba, I danced that role with Margarita Pa.
Margarita de Sa.
She's a school in New Jersey.
Oh yes, with Margarita de Sa.
Yeah.
Yes, she was a solo. So you danced it with Margarita.
Yes.
I see. Here's Mr. Nelson with Igor Yuskevich. Mr. Nelson, did you get along with Igor Yuskevich?
Oh, great. When I lost my school here in New York, he took me into his studio and he said, "Whatever time you want, I'll give it to you."
When you were in the process of becoming a danseur, was he one of your role models?
Oh, yeah.
Who were your role models?
Igor,
Igor was.
yes. And also the Russians.
The Russians.
But they didn't touch Igor. He had a certain presence on stage that I liked.
Right.
Was form and stature.
And he was very masculine.
Oh yeah, he was an athlete himself.
Right.
So he impressed me greatly.
Who were your coaches?
Kozlov and Willem Christensen. Willem Christensen at one time studied here in New York with Volkin.
When you danced the poet in Les Sylphides. What was the program? Did you open the program that night with Margarita de Sa?
Yeah, that was the opening ballet. And we were waiting, holding the curtain, because Fidel Castro was late getting to the performance. And I guess Alicia Alonso told him, "That's not good for the dancers. They warmed up and they have to warm up again." So he apologized to me.
Fidel Castro did.
Yes.
And was he dressed in the olive green uniform?
He might have been, yes.
And he had the beard and
Oh, yes.
he wasn't smoking a cigar, was he?
No.
So, Mr. Nelson, you had a good time in Cuba?
Oh, excellent.
When you were with the Ballet Russe, you worked with the most famous people of that era.
Yeah.
You worked